Hi, this is Scott with Android Guys. I'm here with Luke.
Hey.
Luke, it's time to talk about another phone carrier.
Yeah.
A service provider.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're going to discuss Tello.
Yes.
And its handset selection.
Okay.
So we have talked about Tello in the past as part of a series of kind of getting to know MVNO carriers.
Right.
Wireless providers, and kind of tell us some things about them we might not know. Help us understand maybe if it's something worth considering. Is it just a viable alternative to the big carriers that we're already familiar with?
Right.
So one of the things that we do discuss as part of that is whether or not the carrier provides its own handset selection.
Right.
Some of them provide a pretty robust handset selection.
Yeah.
And keep pace with some of the bigger carriers and have a rather current or modern lineup.
Sure.
Other carriers tend to have a more limited selection and or maybe only lean into specific models or brands, things that may be otherwise outdated.
Sure.
In terms of models, comparatively speaking.
Right.
And then some kind of lean a little bit more into the, we don't even offer handsets.
Yeah, kind of bring your own.
Yeah, or we do have some refurbished models.
Right.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that. So Tello, as a carrier, does provide some phones.
They do.
However, this episode is going to be a little different than some of the others in the best handset selection.
Sure.
So what we do is, to qualify this, we kind of look at the phones that are offered and we kind of pick a model to put into a category. What is the best phone for an entry-level user?
Sure.
What is the best phone for somebody who wants the best, beefiest, strongest phone they can get their hands on? And then maybe what is a good mid-range or a good all-around value package?
Right, and then every once in a while we'll have what's something different or what's a productivity phone or something like that.
If they've got a nice selection, what's the best flip or fold or something along those lines?
Right.
So Tello's a little bit different. When you go to their website and you start to search for phones, what we do for these types of for this type of content is we'll talk about the best Android phones. So we'll automatically filter out iPhone. That's not to say iPhone doesn't deserve to be in these discussions. This is just more of what is the best available in terms of Android.
Right.
We are Android guys after all.
Right.
So we'll filter out Apple phones, and then we will always kind of look for new.
Yes.
That's not to say refurbished are not worth looking into.
Yep.
That's not to say you shouldn't consider it. But these are the current phones. These are not open box. These have not been sent back.
Yeah, and most of the idea is if you're a person coming to Tello, for instance, that person that we have in mind is a person that is coming to get service and they don't have a phone.
Yes.
And then we say, okay, you don't have a phone. You're looking for a phone. Here are different types of phones to meet different criteria depending on what your usage needs are. And so when we're going and looking for these, we filter out anything that is refurbished or used. Yeah.
So, Luke, when we did this for Tello, it filters this list down to about 5 phones.
5 phones.
Total. Let's start with the entry level then.
Yeah.
And figure out if somebody says, you know what, I've never really had a smartphone. I don't know what my needs are, or I have some very basic needs. I just want to be able to pick it up and call when I need to. I'm probably not even going to power this thing on very often. I might check some emails, send some messages, but really this is just a prepaid, I might call my grandkids or I'm going camping and want to be available. What phone did we decide of the 5?
Of the 5.
Yeah. Would be a good pick for that.
So we would recommend the new NUU A11L.
Yes.
So this is a candy bar style phone, meaning it's just doesn't fold or anything. It's just the screen. It's a 5.45 inch screen with a 720 by 1440 pixel resolution. And It's not bad for an entry level phone. It's got a quad core 1.5 gigahertz processor. It has 2 gigs of RAM with 16 gigs of built-in storage, and you can expand that up to 64 gigs with an external SD card.
Yes.
It has an 8 megapixel camera with a flash and a 5 megapixel selfie camera.
So when you talk about the hardware, if you know anything about hardware, you're going to listen to that and go, oh boy, that doesn't sound like much.
No.
However, if you're a person who's never had a phone, you hear those specs and you have no idea what that even means.
Right.
And then there's the overlap of, I understand what it is. I don't really care.
Right.
This works for me.
Right.
Now, this is an Android Go edition phone.
Right.
So that software is optimized for that lower end hardware.
Yes.
So when you think about 2 gigabytes, an octa-core processor or quad core, on paper, it's kind of not really a fair comparison.
No.
Because the software itself is designed for low power, very basic needs.
Right.
So it's a good matchup between those and doesn't really put out to pretend to be anything more than it is.
Right.
And it's a 4G phone.
Yeah, it is.
Where sometimes people are like, I'm looking for a 5G. Like you have certain needs, things like that. But this is the new mobile NUU. It's the A11. And it runs about $120 through New Mobile's website. Runs it through Tello. Yep, same price, $120. Let's move up the line.
Okay.
And talk about a mid-range kind of all-around package.
Sure.
That says, hey, all right, I do have some needs, or I'm going to use this thing on a little bit more regular basis. I care a little bit more about, battery life and maybe do a little bit of gaming, things like that.
Yeah.
Tello doesn't have a ton to choose from, obviously, but they do have a decent one kind of right there. It's in the middle of what they offer.
Yeah.
And price-wise, it doesn't, you're talking about, $40 difference, $45 difference.
You're only spending a little bit more money for a lot more phone.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of the mid range for Tello is the Motorola G Play. So it's made by Motorola and it's part of their Moto line, Moto G line, and this is the Play one. It's a 6.5 inch screen. It's got 3 gigs of RAM. It has a 5,000 milliamp battery, so it's a really good size battery for being able to use your phone all day, no problem. 32 gigs of storage. It can be expanded with an SD card, and it's got a 13 megapixel camera and a 5 megapixel camera for the selfie cam. This one is also a 4G phone, so it's not going to be 5G. But it is a great phone. This is one of the phones that we usually recommend actually in kind of a beginner phone.
Yeah, the Motorola G as a series of phones is a great option for a lot of consumers. It kind of toes the line between entry level and mid range phone, and it's available in different iterations. But it usually it's a safe bet.
Yeah,
it's something that we would feel good about somebody saying, I'm thinking about getting a Moto G, and whatever it is, stylus, play, power, I think that's a good move.
Yeah.
Now this one is, I believe, an Android 10 phone.
Yeah.
So if you are keeping track of software versions of Android, we're now at 12 and 13.
It's right around the corner.
Yeah. So it's, it's a little old when you compare that, but it's a pure version of Android with a little bit of extra Motorola customization. It's easy to learn software UI, and it has it's a good suite of enhancements that you can kind of enable or disable based off of what kind of experience you want.
Sure.
So yeah, the Motorola Moto G Play is a good mid-range phone.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice to see that, actually, of only having a handful of phones. It's nice to see Tello offering that.
Yeah.
So Luke, let's go as big and bold as we can now.
Sure.
What is the best phone available? The best flagship experience? Give me the most hardware.
Yeah.
I care about performance, and I have to buy my phone through Tello.
Right.
What am I going to pick?
So this one is actually it's surprising.
It's weird, right?
Given what they offer. This is a really, really great phone. The Samsung Galaxy S22 5G, which is the latest in Samsung's Galaxy series phone. Mm-hmm. The S22. This one has everything. Yeah. Really, it has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 processor, 8 gigs of RAM, with 128 or 256 gigs of storage. I think Tello only offers the 128 gigs of storage, but it has a 3700 milliamp battery. It does fast charging at 25 watts. It has multiple cameras, mm-hmm. And it also is a 5G phone, so it will be fast data. Yep. And a 6.1 inch screen, so it's a nice big phone.
Yeah, and it's a quality material.
Mm-hmm.
The design, the build of it looks nice. It's a sharp phone, mm-hmm. and it's again, it's surprising to see it here.
Yeah,
considering what the rest of the selection looks like.
Right.
So they do have that going for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say another thing about Samsung is that they do a great job of supporting with software.
Yeah.
They do multiple years of software and patches, securities, things like that.
Right.
Yeah. So the Galaxy S22 is 5G, runs about 820 right now. Normally 850. I'm not sure if that's always discounted or limited time or whatever. But yeah, those are the three that we picked. Now, there are a number of phones that are refurbished on the website, and it does kind of fill in the gaps a little bit more in terms of price point and features.
Sure.
But if you're considering Tello and you're looking to buy your phone from them, mm-hmm. that's what we recommend. And again, you can go through a lot of phone makers. You can go to Best Buy. Mm-hmm. You can find a lot of phones unlocked through Amazon and different channels that you can take to Tello, and you can also go to their website and check to see if it is compatible with it.
Right.
So if you have a friend or family member that's like, hey, I've got a phone you could use, or, if you're switching carriers and don't really want to buy a new phone right now, you can check. It's probably going to be compatible.
Right.
So yeah, that's right now the best Android handsets available at Tello as of summer 2022.
Yep.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast.
Thanks for listening.
We appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, feedback, concerns, comments, anything, shoot us an email at podcast@AndroidGuys.com. We'd love to hear from you one way or the other. Luke, if someone wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
I am on Instagram and Twitter at Luke Gaul, Gaul.
And I'm on Instagram at Scott Webster and Twitter as SWebster77. Until next time, thanks for listening.
See ya.